Good. All right. Hey, good morning. We appreciate the time. By the way, last day of school, I know a weird time to have a meeting. We've been getting out to, some are celebrating over there. Congratulations. Have been getting out to all the buildings and all the elementaries to talk about elementary supervision, which we know a lot of changes happened this year. And so as we go into negotiations, we want to talk through some of that. And so we want to go ahead and get started. We've got till, what time, 11 o'clock? Okay, all right, we want to make sure we get done in time. All right, so we're going to, let's go to, Karen, you want to cover the first slide?
Sure.
It sounds like this is the first time, but it's not the first time. This is the last one, 18 schools in 2 weeks. So, all right.
I'm on a short leash.
All right, let's get started.
Okay, so like Mr. Decker said, we're going to every elementary school because prior to COVID, we had different arrival and dismissal supervision procedures. And so we had been hearing that it's been a softer start to the day, it's been a more calm end to the end of the day as well. And so we wanted to kind of look at data to see if that's really happening and what it really looks like. So we obviously want what's best for students, but we also want what's best for teachers. So one of the things we did was we pulled some data from Infinite Campus. So every school has a behavior cadre or a behavior leadership team. And that team establishes your school-wide procedures, how you walk in the hallway, how you go to the restroom, how you behave at recess. You also have established procedures for minor behaviors. Those are behavior situations that teachers handle in the classroom. But major behaviors are handled in the office by Mr. Rigsby, Ms. Bardrick, and Mrs. Williams. Those get entered into Infinite Campus. That has been the procedure for years, and before Infinite Campus, it was entered in Power School. And what you probably don't realize is we have to analyze that data every year. We have to turn in reports for the Office of Civil Rights.
Yeah, one of the questions, and we're going to share with you questions that have come from our first meeting all the way to our last. And one of the questions was, where are they getting this data? Are they making it up? That was one of the first ones is don't listen to the data because they manipulated it. Which I found interesting because the data wasn't even out there yet, but it's interesting that you can manipulate that. But the issue of the data, the Office of Civil Rights requires us to report discipline so they can look at proportionality regarding discipline. Are we disciplining boys more than girls? Are we disciplining one race more than another? So we have had to report this out to the HR office is where this report comes for years and years and years, and so that's where the information's coming from.
And we'll look into that data in just a little bit. But just like we want a best start and end for our students, and we want it safe for our students, we want to protect you all and give you as much plan time as possible. So one of the things you may not realize over, many years, EACT has worked really hard to negotiate for elementary teachers. Secondary teachers for a very long time had more plan time than elementary teachers. They had 45-minute plan times. You all only had 30. If you remember, if you've been in the district for a while, back in the day you had 30-minute plan time. It was not common plan time. Your plan time might be 9 to 9:30. Your teaching partner might be 9:30 to 10. So trying to have PLCs and collaboration was really hard. But what EACD did was, in order for you to have the same amount of time in the day that secondary did, they negotiated to have recess monitors hired so you could have an additional 15 to 20 minutes. So you ended up having the same amount of time as secondary, but it was split. Fast forward to now you have 45-minute common plan time every day with your whole team. So you already have that 45 minutes. Do you want to say anything else about that?
No, we'll talk about it.
Okay. So then, number 4, EACT negotiations. So last year at Convocation, the negotiated agreement was presented to you all the same way it's been presented for like 20 years.
And it didn't work.
We quickly realized, as quickly as you did, that did not work. So we collaborated with EACT, and this coming year, on your first day back, Convocation will again be in the afternoon, but you all will meet at your site, And your principals will protect some time for EACT reps at every building to present the negotiated agreement to you in the morning. You can read over it together, you can ask questions, you can have processing time before then going to convocation in the afternoon and then voting to ratify or not. So then another question that we keep getting at meetings, or have often gotten, is who is the voice for elementary teachers in negotiations? So Chelsea Fu is here, and she will describe that.
Okay, so when we go into negotiations, we want to take in enough people to be represented, but not so many that there is confusion and way too many voices in the room. The district has more folks in there than we do because they have athletics represented, other areas, and one principal from every level. We go in and we have a lead negotiator for all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school. I'm the high school lead negotiator. And then we have a second person from each of middle and high school. And then in elementary, we have two additional folks. We have one of those is particularly deals with money and other issues. When we had our negotiations committee meeting, Kimberly suggested that we make sure that we were really representing our Title I schools, because we understand that you, as a Title I school, have very different challenges from our Redbuds and Centennials. And so we want to make sure that we have our Title I's represented, and actually all three of our elementary are Title I teachers. This represent Title I schools, and one is a Title I teacher. So that is 42% of the negotiating team being represented by elementary, and elementary teachers make up between 40 and 41% of the district's teachers. So on proportionality, you are right on target. We also sometimes bring in one of those elementaries as something that is a very specialized, like we had a pre-K teacher about 3 years ago when we had real issues with our pre-K, and we've been trying to work on that ever since. Another year we had a specials teacher from elementary, again trying to deal with the issues that our specials go through. So this year it's just a Title I teacher representing elementary. We get asked a lot when we get our conversations for taking to negotiations, and we have a negotiations committee. Kimberly was on that this year, and so we get a lot of questions from that, and we also walk around with what Mr. Decker and I call our Bible. This is our contract, it is our red book, and this is our legally binding contract for all areas of certified. And we write things down as we go along, people say things to us. You'll see me typing on here. I have been to 16 of the 18 schools so far, and so I take notes from questions that are asked throughout the meeting. So yesterday was Washington Irving, there were questions from them, so I type them in and share them with Cara and Mr. Decker so that the conversations you have with us are also going in here. We have the survey. The survey goes to all of our bargaining community, which includes everybody, members and non-members, which is why Mr. Decker has to send it out. I am not allowed by the contract to send anything to non-members that district-wide. So we send it out. It is owned by the OEA. That means it never goes back through the district. It goes directly to the OEA, it is collated, and then it is seen by only 3 people, one for middle, one for high school, and one for elementary. I will tell you that it's a lot to go through. Right now we're dealing with 107 pages of comments from elementary, and it's not pretty. So we have to read through each and every one of those comments and look at those. I was asked why I didn't share that. Well, one thing is, I don't think you would want to see it. The other is, you send it to me in confidentiality with the belief that I am not going to share it. 3 sets of eyes only see it, because we want to protect your ability to talk to us. So that's where we get many of our questions. And then I get people who email me, and we see, when we go through, we look at things that are common. You know, if one person's screaming and shouting, but that's the only person, or it's something that's for a site, we can deal with it on a site-based level. But if it's something that's going up multiple schools, then we need to deal with it. And we don't stop negotiations on the last day that we do convocation. We continue throughout the year to try and solve problems. This is a problem-solving team. I know a lot of presidents of local associations, and they don't have a problem-solving team. They are in constant conflict with the district and their association. We try and solve a problem. So when you bring a problem to us, we work with the district to try and see the best way to get that solved. So, and then.
Sure, and a couple of things is, I think one of the best things that's happened to this district was when Chelsea was able to become a part-time release president, because in the mornings now, you and I are talking more than my wife and I talk. So, you and I talk a lot because we're trying to solve problems before they become bigger. We're trying to look at, and we know the supervision thing has been an emotional thing. But here's what I've seen over the course of the last 2 weeks that we've come out to schools. We've seen a lot of different responses. Some agree, some disagree. Some have done it respectfully. Some have shared with us exactly what they thought, which we deal with that, that's fine. What I do know is this. This is not the last big problem that this district will ever have when we work to try to make things better and we work to try to do things. So what I do know is how we treat each other when we're solving problems sets the tone for the next one. And we've had people in my office, you've had people contact you. We have those conversations a lot, but we have to learn how to treat each other with respect. It's been interesting over the last 2 weeks. We started with getting video, which I thought that was interesting, and which ironically, I've had teachers ask me to step in for them when they've been videoed by a parent and been put out on Facebook and things like that. So we got to make sure that we're treating each other the way we want to be treated. But I will tell you, there's a lot of emotion. We understand this has been a tough year. Hey, we're going to talk about data from 18-19 to 21-22. Think about what's been different during that time. We've gone through COVID. We now have unprecedented inflation. Your money is not going as far. We just lost a custodian this week who told me I will be homeless if you make me finish my contract in June. So you don't take back the $750 incentive. You know, we gave a $750 incentive. We're giving another $1,000 retention bonus and signing bonus in September. Well, signing bonus is actually in November for new people, but returning people it's in September. But this person said, Randy, I know you told me that if I take that money and I don't finish my contract, that you're going to take it away. He said, if you take it away, I will be homeless. So we're in a different world from 18-19. And the challenges are wearing on you. We know they're wearing on you. We're going to talk about behavior here in just a second, in both before, after school, and recess, but also in the classroom and the challenges there. We've got to learn how to work together. What I will tell you is, and maybe she doesn't say this, I will say this, I think we have a great working relationship. We talk a lot. Doesn't mean we always agree. We disagree. We disagree. But I can tell you this, if I would consider her a friend, even though we disagree probably more than other friends disagree. So let's jump into this as we talked about negotiations. We're ready for the next slide.
Sure, I did want to piggyback on one thing too, because Chelsea mentioned she's been to 16 schools. The school that she didn't get to go to, Marcy went, and the very first meeting, neither one of them were there, but that was because they knew what we were going to talk about, and we have that good relationship, but we realized it's probably better for them to be present. So we appreciate you spending all this time, Chelsea, traveling with us. All right, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. So those of you who've been in the district for a number of years, not just at ADG DeBow, if you've been at other sites, prior to COVID, we're going to go back to 18-19. So think about arrival and dismissal in 18-19, especially buildings like you all who had 800, 900 students. The kids would be in the gym or outside, and there would no lie be probably 300 at least, wouldn't you say? If I'm wrong, let me know. Kids there. So we know how chaotic that was. The other piece to that was every August, the first day of school, principals are getting ready with their PD. You have your welcome back folders. I can imagine what Mrs. Dargan was doing with her welcome back thing. So you can imagine that. But guys, teachers would be going, when's the sign up? When do we get to sign up for duties? And those people asking when they get to sign up for duties typically were the teachers who had seniority who are like, I want to do breakfast duty. I love breakfast duty. Or I want to do drop off in the morning, parent drop off in the morning. We play music, we high five the kids. They're so happy to be here. On a cold day, I might get a Starbucks. But then go to like the big areas, especially after school bus, where you have 350, 400 kids. What would we do there? We would have to do something. It's called one word in the negotiated agreement. I heard it. Compel. We would have to compel. And who would we compel to do that duty? The new teachers who have not had the experience or the training. They're still learning about student behavior. They're still trying to figure out, no offense to the new teachers, but they're still trying to figure out what to do. They need more planning time. Those aren't the people that we want to be piling more on. Do you want to talk about the first 5 years of teachers right now?
Yeah, right now, well, there was a report I saw like 2 days ago. 60% of people, and just to tell you there's discontent in our world regardless of what industry that you're in, but right now 60% of people are thinking about and looking for a new job. So that's certainly education is in that field. But we are losing, not just Edmond, in the nation, in the first 5 years, the majority of teachers are leaving. So this becomes a recruitment issue. How do we help make it as good as possible? And by the way, back in 1819, remember this, because we've had conversations, somebody said, I just want to go back to where there was no duty. And I said, no, there may have been no duty for you because you had seniority, but we've always had duty. We have to have supervision in the mornings, at recess, and in the afternoons. So it's just how are we doing it that has created a lot of the change and differences of opinions. But we've got to figure out how to solve that problem in the first 5 years. Salaries in Oklahoma we pay one of the highest salaries. That's still not doing it. There are people that pay less salary. They're losing people as well. So that's one of our challenges as we look at all of this picture.
Okay, so now we're going to look at the student data from Infinite Campus. This is behavior data. Mr. Decker, if you will be my man now.
Oh, sorry.
And remember, this data is the major behaviors that are taken to the office and have consequences from the office. This is not the minor behaviors. So there's 4 different slides, but the first one is the overall data for the whole day, and this is elementary.
Elementary, and your data for your school, Ms. Williams.
She's right behind you.
There you go. Can pull up. So this is all elementaries, and it's for 18-19 and 21-22.
So the blue is 18-19 major behaviors, and the orange is 21-22. We used 18-19 because 19-20 we all know ended early, and last year you had we had 80 schedule, and then you had Wednesdays with no students, so that data would be different. So what you are seeing is a representation of a 52% decrease in major behaviors. It is an 85% decrease in minor altercations, hitting, pushing, shoving. And some people have been, pretty vocal about, yeah, it's lower because we're the ones doing duty. You're not wrong. You work in an elementary school. You work with children who've been on this earth 60, 72, 80 months. You're right, there are behaviors. But what's happening is you as the teachers are able to go, oh, I know Johnny and Sarah are not supposed to be together. And you can proactively go over and separate them before it becomes a major altercation and a major fight. What we have seen an increase, and I know you have felt it, you had a whole team that I got to travel with to learn about anger and rage. I know it's happening here too. It's happening all over the nation. Dysregulation of our students has increased astronomically, but it's happening like during the class time. They get frustrated, they throw a chair, they elope out the classroom, they bite. Sexual content has increased in elementary. Gun violence, school violence has increased in elementary. Those things have gone way up, but the things that were happening in the large group settings have decreased.
The other thing I would add on that too is, and you really as a team, you're gonna have the opportunity to look at this more and say, okay, what caused that? Because it can't just be one thing. But one difference is, remember that it's the morning hours, 7, 8, 9, and the afternoon hours, 3 and 4. were still being done by teachers in 1819. That is consistent. What's different is that the 11, 12, 1 and 2 o'clock range, now we know there are teachers out there on recess, although, and again, you have to break that down a little bit. The things that are happening in the lunchroom are still done by lunch monitors, but you have teachers that are, so that is a little bit of a difference when you look at the data and go, what could explain some of those changes?
So the next few slides are the same data, they're just smaller. That's only morning, only recess, and then only afternoon. So knowing that we've had a decrease in major behaviors, knowing that we see a calmer start to the day and a calmer end to the day, but also knowing that we want to protect your time, we wanted to figure out how do we sustain the good things, but how do we improve where there are areas to improve? Do we start talking about that, or do you want to go?
Yeah.
So what we did at May's principal meeting, I printed out.
Okay. Did you want me to hit this first?
That's what I was wondering.
Okay, there we go. So you would have seen this, one of the changes that we made based upon your feedback and conversations at Christmas was that we went and moved, we had separated recess from lunch, moved that back and was able to do that. Didn't hear any complaints, maybe there were some, but we didn't hear any complaints about moving those back. But here's the timeline, and this is where negotiations comes in, that for years, and as long as I've done negotiations, 30-minute planning time for elementary was always a topic, because it was, when you looked at middle school and high school, they had 45 minutes. So if you look at 1819, the column planning R and planning S was what we had to do to get 45 minutes of planning time. And that was, you had your specials for 30 minutes, and then the recess, 15 to 20 minutes, was tacked on to lunch. That got you to the 45 minutes. And then also that column before time and after time has changed as well. Remember in 1819 and 1920, there were only 20 minutes before students came into your classroom. That changed in 2021 to 55 and has been consistent since then. The other thing that I would point down is go down to 21, 22. Now the two columns up above, the 30, the 15 to 20, now are incorporated into one planning time, the 45 minutes. And so that's when the recess, the supervision changed there for 25 minutes, and then of course the before and after school. So one of the things that we've talked about is, because one of the interests when you do negotiations, we all wanted more planning time for teachers. We also wanted a better way to do supervision. And the data certainly shows some of that. Now we can break it down and at your building look and say, okay, well, did we have the same gains as other schools or as the district did? But the question then with supervision is how can we do it with the least number of people possible? And that kind of leads us to, that's just another slide that we'll get this.
And you've seen both of these slides as long as you didn't fall asleep in Mr. Decker's first Zoom in December. He said that's the same presentation he sent out, so you've seen those slides.
So what are the least number of adults needed in any area to provide safe supervision? That's the question that we want you talking about in your schools. And for those of you that are as old as me, or I'm sorry, as experienced as me, you remember the old show, Name That Tune? And they play a song and somebody would say, I could name that tune. Somebody told me that's back. I don't watch live TV. But I can name that tune in 8 notes, 7 notes, 6 notes. What we're asking is, what's the least number that we can do supervision and do it safely? And we've been, as COVID numbers went down, we began to ask that question more and more. And as we've gone around the buildings, and I'll talk about that in a second, we've seen varied experiences. So we want to hit those real quick. You want to talk about what you know?
Sure. So, like I was saying, at the May principals meeting, I had principals sit in tables with like enrollment principals, so kind of same size schools. And I gave each principal 2 maps of their own buildings, and I had them mark on one map where they have duties assigned for the morning, and on the other for the afternoon. And then they collaborated together. And what we were noticing was there were conversations such as, wow, you have 12 people assigned in the morning. I have less students than you, or I have more students than you do, and you have 7. Like, Why are you able to do it with fewer people? Tell me what you're doing. And so they started talking about, well, we have our kindergarten group here, or we have safety patrol. We have 50 kids on safety patrol. We have, not all in one day, I don't mean that, but to rotate around. We utilize our fourth graders to help with pre-K. We started realizing that there's a lot of ways to do this, but there's not one size fits all. So what we have tasked our principals and assistant principals with doing is meeting with the leadership team, making sure your EACT rep is a part of this, but analyzing Angie DeBoe's arrival dismissal. What does that look like? What can we do differently? We want you to think outside of the box. We're not saying there's only one way to do this. We want you to do the safest. If 2 is safe, 3 is too many, as Mr. Decker says. But we don't want to go back to the 300, 400 kids in the gym.
And one of the things that we've seen in going to buildings, those who like the changes, let me give you 2 examples of 2 schools built a lot like Angie DeBoe. So the pod system, I went down to 2 kindergartens after I visited the morning. One kindergarten, I went down and I saw one person and I was talking to them about how it was working. They said, oh, it works great. We've got this area where we've got the kids, they're out on a playground in the morning, and one teacher goes out with them because the kids are trickling in. It's not all 5 classes out there at the beginning, and it's working great. And I said, where are the other teachers? They said, they're off doing what they've always done. And I said, so in this school, it's at least, she said, well, I don't know about all the other grades, but for our grade, it's working, and it's working almost as well as 18-19. Now, each teacher takes one morning, so those 5 teachers, one of them takes one morning, the other 4 go about their day like they did back in 18-19 when we compelled people to do duties. I then we went to another school on another day. I went to the same kindergarten, 5 teachers all standing by their doors. And I said, help me understand this. I said, we've been out trying to say we want to do this, we want to free teachers' time up so that not only they get the 45 minutes of planning, but we can get some of the recess, depending on how many teachers you need out there. And they said, well, we just thought we were supposed to stand here. And so with that, I said, well, there were 2 teachers standing as close as you and I, because their doors were right next to each other. And I said, is there a reason why you're both standing here? Well, I think they're supposed to. And I said, could one of you watch the other's class? And they said, yeah. And I said, in that case, we've now got 50% of your mornings back just by alternating. But some schools are doing it there's 3 of them that they're alternating. A lot like indoor recess, yes, where somebody's walking around. And so we wanted to be here today to free you up to go, be as creative as you can with this. Is it safe? And are we not putting 400 kids back in, or 300 kids, whatever it is, back in the gym and the cafeteria? We've got about 2 minutes, so do you want to hit anything else that we need to? So we've seen it working great in some places and not, and some of them said we just didn't realize we had the freedom to do that. And what we're saying is, teaching is hard. So we don't want to go back to 30 minutes of planning and then give you another 15 to 20 minutes to be able to get your planning in. Now, the other challenge that's come up, because as we've gone out here, was one of the questions. They said, well, why can't you just pay for recess monitors again? Okay. Well, then you've got an issue because at the middle and high school, they have 45 minutes of planning. Now that you have 45 minutes of planning, if we go back, and it's all negotiations, but if we go back to recess monitors doing that, then you've got elementary that is at an hour and 10 minutes of planning a day versus 45, and then you're gonna have some issues among.
And middle school doesn't have lunch.
That's true. If you're in the middle school, you get your 45-minute planning, and then all those teachers almost always are compelled to do lunch duty because there's not enough people to do that. So they get their 45 minutes. So I know it's 8:50. We want to hang around. Please email us. Email Chelsea, email me, Cara, or we'll stay around if you got a chance.
Thanks for all you do. We appreciate